If you're an HR professional who works hard to fill roles within your company, keep employees engaged, and build company culture, welcome to America Back to Work, where dreams only work if we do. We'll share wide-ranging issues surrounding pre-employment background screening, HR topics such as recruiting, hiring, labor trends, and company culture, as well as broader HR-influenced business topics such as customer experience, service level excellence, and protecting what matters through best practices in prevention, protection, and corporate security. America Back to Work is brought to you by S2 Verify. Here's your host, Arnette Heintze.
Welcome to America Back to Work, brought to you by S2 Verify, where our purpose is to help you hire with confidence and manage insider risk. I'm your host, Arnette Heintze. Thank you for joining. Today, our guest is Tiffany Montgomery. Tiffany is the Director of Human Resources at Saul Ewing. Tiffany is a strategic and innovation human resources leader with more than 20 years of experience as a business partner for excellence in all areas of human resources. Tiffany, it's a great pleasure to have you here today with us. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about your very accomplished career?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. So a lot of people say that HR is one of those roles that you kind of end up in, and I'm definitely in that category. I started out, got my degree in business management, knew that I'd like to deal with people, and that's as far as I knew when I started working. And just slowly but surely, I started to be the go-to person for all the questions, the person to help, the person to organize. And then I ended up in management roles. And then where I was working, the HR person moved away. And I just kind of organically took on all of these HR responsibilities. And I enjoyed it and I was good at it. And the boss that I had at the time was like, you know what, I think you could probably do this. And I was like, okay. And that's where they came from. I went and got my certifications, which is very important. And the rest, as they say, was State Street.
Yeah, that's great. So, I have a sense that all HR executives would love to be able to position themselves as a key and true business partner in the company. Why don't you share with us what you think that ideal relationship should look like?
So the ideal relationship is that you're a partner. The ideal relationship is that you're not, the police, that you're there to be of support to the organization, to the people of the organization. And leadership has to feel that that's why you're there. Your leadership has to feel like whatever it is that they're looking to do, whatever direction, because they determine the direction, right? So whatever the direction, the goals that they've set, leadership has to feel that HR is there to help to guide them with the people. Because what is HR? Human resources. A lot of times people, we get so caught up in everything that we have to do and all the requirements that come with HR that we forget that at the end of the day, HR is human resources. So HR is about the humans that are working in a particular organization. And so leadership has to feel like you're there to support them in that area.
Yeah. So I know the last 3 years has really given everyone in HR a huge roller coaster ride on ups and downs and, just really affected everything in general. What's your thoughts on the impact that these last couple of years have had on recruiting, retention, some of the core elements of an HR function? How's that affected it?
It's affected it in every single way. The last 3 years have turned HR upside down, which has made us have to rethink everything that we do. What you said, from recruiting to retention to the way that we work with people within our organization, because everyone, the managers, employees alike, has changed in the way that they're thinking because of the circumstances that we've all endured over the last 3 years.
Yep. So would it be fair to say that there's a maturity model when it comes to HR in a company? They're less mature would be simply fulfilling the functions of the company and being perceived as administrative in nature, whereas a more mature model would be, having a seat in the C-suite.
Mm-hmm.
How can a HR leader, get her or his position seen in that C-suite function?
I would say the first thing you have to do is understand your organization. Organizations are not created equal. You need to understand the goals of the organization. You need to understand what it is that the organization is trying to accomplish, right? That's not always the same thing. So that's a good understanding that you have to have, because again, you have to partner. So you can't partner with something that you don't understand. So that's the first thing that you have to do. So you have to listen. How do you do it? You have to listen. You talk to leaders about the past, like dig into the past. What's worked? What hasn't worked? What are their dreams for what it is? Whatever it is, even if it's not something in the HR category, you want to be there to support them. And what are the things that you can do to help them get to that accomplishment? And I would say that's for the organization. But then you have to get to know the leaders. What are their pain points? What is it that they are struggling with? And so you want to be the person or the organization or the department that can help them. Is it training? Is it getting resources? What is it that they struggle with? You want to help them get there. And so once you can help a leader with what it is that they're having difficulty with, then you can be seen as a partner, because they can see that, all right, this person gets my pain point. This person gets what I'm trying to do, and they're trying to get me there.
Yep. Oftentimes in conversations I'm having with, professionals across the spectrum here in HR, there's a consistent theme that comes up, and it's like, when does a small company need a full-time HR representative on the team? And there's, everybody's got different opinions, and I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think the ideal? I've heard, many people think, oh, when you get to 70 or 100, that's the magic number. But what's your perspective?
First of all, there's no such thing as a magic number. So that's the first thing. Again, you have to know the organization. I'm not an HR professional. Of course, I feel like everyone should have an HR person, but understand that doesn't mean that person's full-time job has to be HR. So I think the organizations, especially smaller ones, and think of it like this: is there someone whose focus is the people of the organization and their well-being? Is there a person? So if you have a 30-person organization, right, you have to have a full-time HR person. That would be nice. That's not always possible. But do you have a person who, as part of their role, they understand that their responsibility is to focus on the well-being of the employees? And of course, there's a ton of things that fall under that. We're talking about, everyday life skills. We're talking about benefits. We're talking about resources, all the things that employees want, training, skills, and all of that. So if you have a person who can say that they are focused on that as part of their job, then maybe you don't necessarily need a full-time person.
Yeah. So I know, anybody in HR realizes the importance of having strong relationships in an organization with every element of it, from the C-suites all the way down. But are there any functions that you think are really more critical than others, or that step up the true need to have a strong partnership? And, a couple of areas that come to my mind are around communications, sales, marketing, a couple of those. What's your point of view on that?
First thing I'm going to say is it's important for every part of the organization because, again, I'm going to say it again, because every part of the organization has people, and all the people have needs. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to meet the goals for the organization. But I understand why you would say marketing, sales, in an organization like my organization, which is a law firm. There's also other departments. There's professional development that needs to support HR. But it's like, picking your favorite anything. It's very hard for me to choose a department that, IT. People always forget about IT. It's technical, but there's a lot of HR needs within IT, especially depending on how large the organization is. And also, we're looking at different departments. How tiered is the department itself? Because, it can span out. And of course, it's going to cause more need for human resources help. So I'm going to stick with my answer that every department needs HR.
Couldn't agree more. So, there's an area of thought that HR really has better connectivity with the breadth of employees in an organization and oftentimes can be seen as a source of intelligence across various teams and business units. What's your thoughts? How does, do you see yourself or do you see HR as a strategic group that can bring really good intelligence to the leadership team?
I do, because when the leadership is looking at the goals and how they want to accomplish them, what are the drivers that need to come from the individuals that are going to make that happen? And HR can be a key source to pull out that information and to pull out that data to help the leaders. HR can help them organize themselves. HR can help them organize their departments. HR can help them look at all the different pieces that are in the various places of the organization and say, how can we put those things together? Sometimes we're, on the outside looking in, and so we can offer a good perspective to the leader.
Yep. So when it comes to, showing how HR is really bringing value to the bottom line of a company, are there any metrics or tools that you can suggest that might help that HR professional?
HR analytics in general, we think of an HRIS, which is a Human Resources Information System. Not every organization has one, but that is a place that houses all of the data for all of your population in the organization. And so you can go in there, you can create reports that give you different types of data that can be very useful to a leader. Who's in the department? What is the department made up of? How much money is the department making? How much are you paying out of the department? Staffing metrics. That's something that's really important, depending on your organization. Sometimes we overstaff. Sometimes we think we need to hire all of these people, but you can help a leader look at where they're staffed. Where are they heavy? Where are they light? Sometimes it's like managers come to you, I need to hire. And you have to take a step back. The leader has to take a step back and say, well, you really need that. And so that's where HR can come into play and help a manager really see how the different departments, help an organization see how the departments stack up, but help a manager see what is happening inside of their different departments and how that makes a difference in terms of ratio. We really need someone. We don't need to hire for our busy times, right? Because we all get busy, but if we hire for the busy times, then when it's not busy, then what do we do? So was that a good hire? So all of those are metrics that an HR professional can pull out for a leader.
Yeah. I'd like to drill into that area just a little bit here, because I see it so oftentimes that different business leaders start screaming, hey, I need more people. I need more staff. Yeah. And how do you actually get in to work with that leader that's, screaming, hey, I need more help. I need more staff, with some of the decision makers in the organization that would say, okay, yeah, bring some more on. Tell us a little bit more about that.
That's I was going to say, maybe not weekly. That is a monthly, if not, that is an ongoing issue.
Right.
And you want to be there to help the leader. So you understand what they need. But a lot of times, what you can dig into, okay, the people that you have, what are they actually doing? And we talked about metrics. You can look at overtime, right? If you have hourly employees, are your hourly employees doing any overtime? So that's a very easy example. So, you look across the organization and you say, nobody's doing any overtime. And typically, people want to do overtime.
Yeah.
So have you asked that if you spread whatever the project is across your staff, this person takes an hour, this person takes an hour. Once you do that, it's never going to equal the salary of another individual. So sometimes, you need to sit down with leaders and help them. Okay, let's look at what we have here. Let's look at the resources that we have, and let's see how we can better utilize the people that we have. I mean, sometimes it's taking what Tiffany's doing and giving it to someone else and switching. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's reallocation of resources. There's all types of things that we can do before we just automatically hire another person.
So what about the professional service firm that doesn't have any hourly employees, that everybody is on salary? What elements would you look at there? Because the overtime issue that you pointed out is really, that's a key area, right? Then if you're an organization that everybody is on salary, then it's probably trying to look at some semblance of time every day, I guess, that people are, yeah.
That's what it is. So of course, my organization has hourly employees and salary employees. So you still start with looking at what is everyone doing? What is everyone working on? Have things been clearly communicated, expectations been clearly communicated. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes it's simple as saying, okay, we have to accomplish X, and we need to communicate to everyone, our management, our salaried employees, everyone, this is what we need to communicate. This is what we need to accomplish. And so everyone is on the same page. That's where it all starts. And so then you have the managers understanding what the goal is, and they're working with everyone else. They're working with their salaried staff and their hourly staff to get where the goal is. And after you've done all of that, and in the end, sometimes you actually need more people. Of course you do. Of course you do. But, it's just as an HR professional, part of our role is to really examine it and not to just say, okay, fine, we can hire somebody tomorrow. And even if you're an organization with a ton of money, a ton of disposable income, you should still be smart and look at what's happening. Because another thing is that individuals who are working have to feel that their work matters. And so you don't want to necessarily water down the tasks and the job responsibilities of the individuals that are there, because that's what is very important. People need to feel like what they're doing matters. And so that means that you need to get the meaningful work where you can, especially when we're talking about, as you mentioned, salaried employees. There's a great opportunity to get salaried employees meaningful work so that they feel like they're truly a part of the success of the organization.
Yeah. So when it comes to an HR professional wanting to be seen as a more effective business partner and strategist, what skills and capabilities would you recommend to HR professionals that maybe they need to step up, enhance, get greater training or experience, and any skills that jump out at you?
The first thing that jumps out is negotiation skills. Right? Or strategizing. That is the number one thing. And I don't necessarily need negotiation skills as far as something that's going to benefit me as an HR person or the department. Negotiation skills in terms of making two different groups or entities or departments come together. There's nothing like being able to bring together two different parties and more and having them work through whatever the issue is, and then having everybody walk away feeling like something has been accomplished. Now, does everybody always walk away 100%? I got everything that I wanted? Of course not. But good negotiation skills means that everyone is able to understand that we all came together for a common goal and we're all walking away feeling better for it. And it may seem like a simple thing, but I'm sure you can imagine it's not always simple, especially depending on what the stakes are and the level of the people that you're dealing with. So negotiation, I would say diplomacy. There's a lot that happens. There's a lot that's uncomfortable. There's a lot of very uncomfortable conversations. There's a lot of tough decisions that have to be made. And so diplomacy is really important. Adaptability and flexibility, of course, because HR is a moving target. It changes all the time. And so when things change, you have to be ready to change with it. I would say strategy skills. I would say having knowledge. Like I said, I have certification, so you need to have the knowledge of your department, of your organization, but also the knowledge of human resources knowledge. And there's a lot there. And so I think that that's important to strategize, because you need to know where to apply the knowledge to help the organization that you're working with, and then execution, of course. We can be here all day talking about what we need to do and the people that need to do it. But if we can't get the execution going, then nothing happens. If nothing happens, nothing happens. So I think HR people have to be very good.
Well, that's a great summary of skills that I think HR professionals should focus in on. And it's hard to believe, but we're coming up to the end of our time together. But before we finish, I have one question left for you. And that question is, if S2 Verify were to conduct a background check on you, would there be any surprises?
Not a background check. So I think, I don't know, this could be surprising. I think if there was a background check done on me, you would find out that I am a proud recovering band geek. I was in the marching band in high school and in college. I played the flute, but I was also color guard captain. And, people feel certain ways about that. But I have to say, I'm very proud of that.
That's fabulous. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining today. And where can our audience keep up with what you have going on? Is there a location that they can keep track of you on?
I would say mostly LinkedIn. They can reach me on LinkedIn, Tiffany E. Montgomery, and I am the Tiffany E. Montgomery that works for Saul Ewing.
Well, great. So as we finish up here today, I'd like to take a minute with my partners at S2 Verify, Bill and Jim. Jim, Bill just made a reference to the speed in which our team delivers services. Why don't you frame that up and provide what is typically the response time in our service? And there's always outliers depending on certain circumstances. Why don't you explain a little bit of that?
It was one of the first things that Billy and I started out with was when you try to differentiate yourself in the market, right? If the source of a record is location A and everybody's running there to get it, then the question becomes, how are you going to differentiate yourself in the collection of the accuracy of the delivery of that same record that everyone's trying to garner? And what Billy and I have been able to do, and Arnette with yourself more recently, and involvement in the business, is been able to build a framework that enables us to do that. So when we go to customers and we talk about it, we just had this experience with one of Yale's clients where they actually believed we didn't do the background correctly or properly because it came back too quickly. So what was 7 or 8 days historically was 3.5 to 4 days with S2 Verify. It prompts that kind of response. But I want to back up to kind of your earlier frame around, purpose and what our mission has been. That's been our mission from day one. Accurate, timely, in a reasonably prudent fashion to get it delivered. And that is everybody on the S2 Verify team, so that everything they touch, they realize that in order to meet that standard, that they're going to do whatever they have to do in the least amount of time. We have set the benchmark, for client redress. The FCRA allows you up to 30 days. I believe 96% of ours are turned around in 24 hours. Okay. That's when a consumer calls and is saying to us, there's something wrong with my background, or I think there's an error or mistake. And that's your time to resolution. Obviously, it can take a little longer if we've got to go to a court that's slow, whatever the case might be. Billy and I set a precedent from the beginning. Every phone call is returned within 2 hours. Okay? I don't know anyone else. We know a lot of screening companies that just don't return phone calls. We return them within 2 hours, usually within the hour. And so there's a series of those things that have helped us get S2 Verify to where we are today and kind of to what our client base expects from us in the industry.
Great. And it ties into the vision. You just touched on those elements, which is deliver fast, accurate, compliant, and affordable background checks that are helping our clients manage the full spectrum of risk, threats, and vulnerabilities. And, our entire team is, I know, so dedicated to that. I think now is a really good time for us to start moving into the area of compliance and how we deal with that. And Jim, as the as the leader of our team's efforts in compliance. Why don't you share a little bit of the elements that we find clients most need our help with in making sure that we're providing them a compliant background screening for employment purposes?
There is the old expression of it takes an army. And what's happening in background screening as it relates to compliance is tied to a lot of moving parts. And we'll just hone here quickly on a couple. I know both of you heard me talk about the number one target today for are you doing what you're supposed to do is in the area of accuracy and completeness. They're very vague terms that, as Bill and I know, can turn very messy in a hurry. So, and it's the accuracy and completeness of our product in the face of timely delivery. So you've got to stay within the framework of what we're going to do, which is deliver this in the quickest fashion possible, all while making it compliant with accuracy standards and with completeness standards. Part of our accreditation, with the part of our accreditation that's focused on that, is a no exception criteria. A report must be complete. It must be accurate. And in terms, Arnette, to help the audience a bit, accurate and completeness are kind of vague terms. They're very well defined in the FCRA, but accuracy can be as simple as I have the same record from a county court and the same record from a statewide court. I do not send them both. Sending them both implies duplicates, meaning then the report's not been reviewed for accuracy. Our customers many times will go, oh, well, he's got two records. Actually, no, he doesn't. He has one record listed twice. So those simplistic frames on accuracy are important. Completeness is tied to the aspects of when I go to the courthouse, here we go, accurately and completely reporting the record, not summarizing, not using AI, which pulls in a ton of data and flipping it over the wall, but taking that data and ensuring that it's complete, accurate, presents a fair picture on the consumer. So summarize on that topic, the number one challenge for us is accuracy, completeness in the face of timely delivery.
That's really great. And, our industry is governed, you mentioned this a time or two, the Fair Credit Reporting Act sets one set of compliance standards. And if you would, just for a second, Jim, and then Bill, you can add in here, can you summarize at a high level those FCRA compliant issues that maybe some of our clients might not be fully appreciative of, such as, there's got to be a signed consent. There's got to be, you give the candidate an opportunity to dispute any record. So why don't you summarize a couple of these, the high points under FCRA?
You touched on probably the most critical, and that is the absolute requirement for a client to have what is generically known as consent and authorization, and consent and authorization within a timely framework. What I mean by that is, if you collect a consent and authorization today, you can't sit on it and use it in December, okay? So there's a time factor on any of these items, but having a consent and an authorization, clear, conspicuous for the consumer, helping number one most volatile issue with the FCRA. The second part of that, again, you touched on it, but the critical nature of it is a consumer has the right to a copy of the report that's been completed on them. And so there's no maneuvering around that. Whether they use it or don't use it, whether they want it or don't want it, they are absolutely entitled to a copy of the report. The third aspect of that under the FCRA that's tied to that is they're entitled to redress. So if I have made an error or they think I've made an error, or reported on the wrong person because they've got a twin, whatever kind of chaos one can think of, they are entitled to make a phone call to S2 Verify. We are responsible for going back and rechecking what we reported, either ensuring it's accurate, or if we find that it's not, or it does happen in error by the court, then removing it from the background screen and producing then an updated or a new background on the individual. But those three topics really the most volatile when it comes to FCRA and the compliance. And it's become even more so. Bill mentioned earlier the issue now of consumers using mobile devices. So you've got to be able to push that technology, S2 Verify has done it extremely well, out to the mobile device. So that same consent, same authorization, electronic signature, captured, retained, and then parked, if you will, for use in completing the background. Great part about it is they've got notification when their report is done, and they can do redress from their mobile device if they believe something's not correct. So same standards now pushed out and applied electronically. But those are the three most, I would tell you, pay attention, that have to be accomplished.
Bill, how about your perspective? Any elements you want to add in about FCRA compliance issues?
There's a lot of misinformation out there, but a lot of it's been settled from case law about concurrent information for background checks. So historically, a lot of companies were basically using a national CRIM or some type of CRIM file, reporting that information without going back to the source. And so one of the things we always do is we go back to the source to verify any information that we have. We only use the NACRIM as an indicator file. So I think more CRAs, if not all CRAs now, through the litigation process have figured out that they have to do that, but that's something, we've done predominantly throughout, the history of S2 Verify, is making sure that the information we have is current. And so, it could be expunged in the last 30 days. So there's just a lot of misinformation. There was misinformation out there, but I think, from my perspective, that's been rectified in the market. So.
For our audience, please tune in next week when we talk with Mitch Lippman about the status of the office versus hybrid and remote work culture debate. That's a constant debate going on these days. And we'll see you then. It goes without saying, let's get America back to work, because dreams only work if we do. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining today. I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you.
If you want to stay abreast of HR, recruiting, and hiring trends, tips, and tools, make sure you subscribe to America Back to Work. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a rating and a review.